Yeah, Daniel Phillips.
I did get a chance to talk to Johnny Holland, though, and Johnny Holland was very interesting. And I thought the linebacking core was really interesting in this camp.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because I mean, you've got you've added some guys here. I mean, Luke Gifford doesn't do anything for me. He's a special teamer, but I like the way Chaz Surratt moves. I like what I've seen on the practice field from Jalen Graham. But the two guys that are really exciting are Tatum, Bethune, and Stone Blanton on the back end. I was talking to Johnny about Stone Blanton. He's like, yeah, we really like him. He's like, he takes hard coaching. You tell him things one time, and he's got it down. Yeah. He's like, he really understands angles. He understands where to be, and this guy plays fast. He goes, I know the stopwatch speed isn't there, but you're going to see this guy show up at the football. And you get the feeling that Stone Blanton, who made a ton of tackles at Mississippi State this last year,
great player there,
is going to probably, show something and be representative. I would be shocked if Stone Blanton is not a tackling machine and is not almost a cult favorite by the time we get to September. We'll see. But the guy who really opens my eyes is Tatum Bethune. Tatum Bethune is a really good linebacker who just isn't fast enough to play in the NFL.
Right.
That was the take last year. And that was the truth last year.
100%.
That's why he went in the 7th round.
Yep.
He runs in the 4.7s. It used to be you could run in the 4.9s and have the big neck roll, and that was it.
Today.
And then there was a time where you need to run the 4.7s. And then all of a sudden it's like, now we're in an era where you have to run in the 4.5s or you really can't play in the NFL. Chaz Surratt runs in the 4.5s. Nick Martin runs 4.53. Fred Warner runs in the 4.5s. D. Winters is really, really fast. Jalen Graham is a converted safety. He's a runner. Tatum Bethune was a step and a half, if not 2 steps, slow. But what Tatum Bethune has is just crazy, natural linebacker instincts to know how to slip blocks and how to play physical and this. And I mentioned it to Fred Warner the other day after practice. I said, Fred, Tatum Bethune looks really, really good. What do you see? And without me even prompting him, he's like, it's not just he looks better. He's like, it's not just that he's, he knows more and this and that. He's like, he's redone his whole body. And it's true. It's like you look at this guy and you're like, this guy went out and this guy wants it. And he got good advice. And sometimes these guys get good advice. Sometimes they don't.
Totally.
And this guy got good advice. And I guarantee you, without even knowing it, that the Niners said to him, you have to find, through your conditioning, an extra step or two because you're too slow right now. And he went out and he found that step, and a step and a half. He is so fast right now. He looks amazing. Tatum Bethune is going to be a player in the NFL. Now, he's not a superstar, but he is going to be fast enough to be a linebacker that plays in the NFL, and he's good. I mean, he's short, and he's 5'11". He's probably dropped 5 pounds. He's probably like 5'11", 225, 228, something like that.
Dangerous.
But this guy's got instincts. He knows how to play, and he can make tons of tackles against the run. And as long as he's not deficient, where he's just so slow, it's like they're just going to pick on him.
Yeah.
Then he can make a career for himself. I mean, I'm really excited about Bethune and Blanton. I think both those guys are going to wind up being in the NFL. I really like those guys. And of course, Johnny Holland told me with conviction that he thinks Nick Martin is going to be a very good NFL player. He's like, there's no doubt he's going to be a very good NFL player. It's just a matter of time. But we'll see. I mean, I know we don't need to get into it. I know.
I mean, I would hope that they feel that way, seeing as they took him in the 3rd round. That's all I'll say. And
they took
the pads
him really,
are coming on,
really
we don't
early.
really know. Yeah, we just don't know until the pads come on, because it's unquestionably he's got the speed and the instincts, and you like a lot of this stuff. It's about how he can hold up and how he'll take on blocking. That's all. That's the only question I have. If he's big enough, or if he's just wily enough to get around it.
There is an amazing story, by the way, out today in The Athletic by Barrows, where he talks about Nick Martin and his relationship with his brother Chauncey Martin, who went to prison, unfortunately, and now is out of prison, got his degree, went back to college, got his degree, played football, and is trying out in the UFL. And obviously they're, I shouldn't say obviously, but they're brothers, and they lived in the same room together. And I guess there was a big family, but these two brothers were close in age, and they stayed in the same room, and they have this unbelievable bond. And supposedly, his brother Chauncey was like an inspiration to Nick growing up. And now, while Chauncey was locked up, Nick was playing college football, and Chauncey got to watch him on Saturdays on television from prison. And now he's out and making a second chance go good, hopefully. And anyway, it's a great story. And
Barrows does great work.
Barrows, yeah. But Barrows had this one nugget that I thought was really revealing about Nick Martin. And it was that, what's the Oak State coach's game? Gundy? Mike Gundy?
Yeah.
I'm a man. I'm 40. Come pick on me. I'm a man.
Yeah.
I'm a man. I'm 40. Petition the athletic department to let them travel Nick Martin and pay for his accommodations on the road, because he felt he wanted him there because he was that much of a leader of the team. So when you've achieved that status, that the coach is like, even though you're hurt, we're going to fly you because we believe you're, that's what the Niners are also looking for. They're not just looking for fast or this or that. They're looking for somebody who can. You heard Tariq Ahmad say it. It's like, hey, we're putting this thing together thinking who's going to be the leader back there. And they like this kid's leadership traits, and they were willing to overdraft him because of it. I think it's pretty clear.
And listen, this is something I was talking to Hutch about. I appreciate that the 49ers have always treated their players like professionals, right? And I know that sounds trite and ridiculous, but like, Kyle Shanahan isn't here to teach anybody how to be a man or how to be a pro.
No.
Kyle Shanahan's here to give you the best chance of being successful as a professional athlete. There's a lot of teams that do a lot of babysitting, and a lot of teams that have to worry about off the field nonsense and this and that. It's why the Niners were so flummoxed by like the Brandon Ayuk stuff, right? They're like, who the hell is this guy? It's the opposite of every minute they've spent with Brandon Ayuk before then. Debo, you can deal with it a little bit, because that's Debo. Debo's always kind of been a big personality, but he's good-natured. He's good at heart. Like, he's not doing anything that's really dangerous. He's just a little showy. Like, there's no problem with that. George Kittle's a little showy too. That's fine, because they know that these guys are positive. They're fathers. They're positive influences on the community. Like all these things. Kyle Shanahan's not here to like guide someone through in how to be a man. You show up at San Francisco 49ers, and you're going to be a professional football player. We're not going to teach you how to do that. You're here because we think you're that. We'll teach you how to be the best version of yourself, but they're not doing all this stuff, which is why they lean so much on their veterans and guys like Fred and guys like George, and they, happy to pay Brock and Trent Williams, because it's kind of like the big dog teaching the puppy how we operate in this house. That teaching comes from the players, and they prioritize, we kind of scoff at the gold helmet shit and all that stuff, but like that matters, because it's one less thing for them to have to worry about in a league where you got a million things to worry about. Does our locker room have high character guys who we don't have to worry about doing 145 down on, 237 at 4 a.m, like anything like that? Like guys who are here, they're pros, not necessarily, they don't have to be family men. You want to be a womanizer, that's fine. Just don't be getting in trouble with it. Just guys who aren't pains in the asses, and you're keeping them around because, they're good at football. You got guys who might not be as good as football as some of those pains in the asses, but they're a hell of a lot better to go to work with every day. And I do appreciate that about the 49ers, and it's good to see that they've maintained that amid the culling of the roster this past year. They've never deviated from that. Those are standards and priorities that they have, and I think it has served them very well, and I think it'll serve them well in the future, because a lot of teams are willing to take on problem guys. And I think that if you keep doing that repeatedly, as strong as your culture you think you have, and as good as your coaches and as good as eventually it's just going to bite you in the ass to the point where you can't come back from it. One rotten apple can take everything down with them. And, there's a reason that the Raiders, I think, have been consistently shitty forever, save for a couple of years, because they're always willing to overlook personal slights for talent. And it kind of gave them a bit of a mystique, and it made them fun when they're good. And it makes you absolutely brutal when you're bad and gives you no chance of winning sometimes. Whereas I think the Niners will maintain a pretty high floor for years to come because they have pros in the building, regardless of if they're 20 or 40, they got pros. And that stuff really matters, I think. And the older I get, the more obvious it is that kind of stuff really, really matters to me. So
Well,
I
it's
like that.
it's pro football, man. They don't have time to mess around coaching kids up and
Totally.
getting maturing guys.
100%.
It's like, hey, look, and Shanahan, is smart
That ain't
enough
his
to know
game either.
you can take one guy like that. I mean,
Sure.
if you got one mercurial player that he's a little immature, fine. But you can't. That's got to be the exception, and you got to have a strong room, and they got a strong room.